Hi, thanks for tuning in today to our project management class. My name is Uchenna Michael Abali, and this is Project Management Knowledge Arena. And we're going to continue with our series of topics in project management. And in our previous YouTube video, we looked at the project scope management. And today we're going to be looking at the project schedule management. So I would like you to sit tight because I'm going to be back just in a bit. Just sit tight, get ready for this knowledge arena. Thank you very much. See you in just a bit. Right, guys, welcome back to our project management class today. So we're not going to waste time. I'm just going to begin immediately. Permit me to share my screen on the slide today. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be looking at project schedule management. And don't forget, we're going through a series of topics in project management, and we've been able to look to consider the project integration management, and also we were also able to kind of look at the project scope management, where we talked about the scope of the project and how important the scope of the project is, and we're able to go through various processes on how we can go about defining the scope and the kind of defining the boundaries around our project. And today also we're going to continue with our project management, knowledge areas, and the topic today is project schedule management. And when we talk about project schedule management, we're talking about, a kind of defining the timeline and making plans. And at this point, it's expected that we ought to have broken down our project into various, elements under the work breakdown structure. So now, for today, we shall consider the following points under project schedule management. We shall look at the project breakdown structure, then the work breakdown structure, then the activity definition. Then we're going to look at activity sequencing, also duration estimation in a project, the resource planning in a project, the schedule development in a project, critical path analysis in a project, then schedule control. These are the topics, or the subtitles under this project schedule management. So I would like you to pay attention as we go through this just in a few minutes. Yes. All right. So now, first thing we're looking at there is the project work breakdown structure. All right, the work breakdown structure. And I also believe that in my previous topics and explanation, I had in the past giving us a very good example of the work breakdown structure, and this is also an addition to that. So what we have here is also work breakdown structure, and in defining your work breakdown structure, right at the head of it, you have, or at the toppest level, the highest level of your project, you have the project title. Okay, that's the title of the project. Then, below the title of the project, you have your breakdown, meaning that you have broken down this project, building a cottage. All right, you have broken down this into various elements, starting from site preparation, buying resources, construction, cleaning, handover, deliverables. So these are the various aspects of it. And the essence of this breakdown is to make things very easy for yourself, and then to, as much as possible, reduce confusion in your project. You want to be in charge, you want to be in control in your project. That is why you want to break it down, as per every single element and activities that will happen throughout the beginning of the project, from the beginning till the end of it. That's the essence of the work breakdown structure. Meaning that if you want to begin this project, the first thing you're going to do will not be handing over deliverable. Rather, it will be for you to prepare your site, that site preparation. Okay, so it's believed that before this time, you've done the project selection analysis, you've done everything, you've gotten approval, building approval and everything. You've done your site analysis, you concluded that, and now you want to do the site cleaning. You go ahead with the site cleaning. Under the site preparation, you clean your site. If there are stumps and everything that needs to be removed, the shrubs and everything, you go ahead and clean your site. Then also it will be very right for you to do your fencing. It could be part of your program for the project. So after that, you talk about buying your resources, okay? Or you say acquiring your resources. You have the cost estimation. You should know what it will cost you to get resources. You have human resources, you have material resources, okay? Now you figure out buying material, equipment, resources, recruiting manpower. How much will it cost you to get manpower into your project? So after this, you now move ahead to the next element of the project, which is going to be the construction of the project, and that should be under project execution. And you have the building foundation, the building structure, building a structure, then the painting. Then after that, then you have the removing of scraps. All right, so the removal of scraps in the project. Once you're done with that, then you do a handover of the project. So that is your work breakdown. So the work breakdown structure is a fundamental element of schedule management. It involves breaking down the project scope into smaller, manageable, components called work packages. So the work breakdown structure provides a hierarchical view of all project deliverables, facilitating better understanding and organization of tasks. That is the essence of the work breakdown structure. So if you have your work broken down, you will definitely be in charge of your project. You will reduce or minimize confusion in the project. Now, the next thing is activity definition. In the PMP guide, you're going to see define project activity. Now, activity definition involves identifying specific activities required to complete each work package in the work breakdown structure. You need to know the activities. All right. So if I want to go back to this, all right. So the site preparation is a work package, please. Buying resources is a work package. Construction is a work package. So these are work packages. All right. So now in defining these activities these work packages, activity definition involves identifying specific activities required to complete each work package in the WBS, in the work breakdown structure. So these activities are discrete components of work that consume time and resources that have a defined start and end. Now, creating a comprehensive activity list is essential for accurate scheduling. All right, so you must make a list of all the activities that will happen in any phase of the project. It's very important for you. Okay, so then defining activity produces activity list. That means by the time you've defined the activity, for instance, you sit down and say, okay, now I need to clean my site with an activity. All right, I need to clear my site. I need to begin the fencing, for instance. Fencing is also the activity from the a kind of taken from the last WBS I just showed you in this lesson. Now, activity list, the first thing you would have gotten that, and then you have activity attributes. Now, what do I mean by activity attributes? Now, if you have the cleaning of the site, you're going to define and tell us what's involved. What are the attributes in site cleaning? What is involved? What does it look like? Okay, just give a brief definition or a comprehensive definition of the attributes. What is involved? Manpower involvement, equipment, material involvement, and all that. Let's know what's going to cost us. How much it's going to cost us. So that's just that. Then you have the milestone list. You have the milestone list. Once you define the activities, you'll be able to have a milestone list that tells you what happens before what. Okay, so it tells you what happens before what and the breakdown of activities in the project. Now, after that, you have activity sequencing. So at this level, it's believing that you have your activity list. Now, the word sequencing means ordering, meaning that you are ordering things in their order of importance and priority. So activity sequencing refers to determining the logical order in which activities should be performed. It involves identifying dependencies between activities where some tasks cannot start or finish until others are completed. Now, sequencing activities properly helps avoid bottlenecks and ensure a smooth flow of work. For instance, if you want to build a house and you want to sequence the activities in the building of your house, it will be wrong for you to put the roofing first before the foundation. I believe you agree with me, because definitely the foundation must come first before you talk about the roofing. So that means you are sequenced. So if you have that idea that you need to clean your site, you need to do your site analysis, you need to do your excavation, do your blinding and everything, and carry out the foundation before you start forming your blocks, then before you get to the roof level. So these are sequences. There are things in project that happens before others. Okay, so you have to look at things in the order of precedence. Yes, so the order of dependency. So that is activity sequencing. Now, sequence activities is the process of identifying and documenting relationships among the project activities. Sorry, like this diagram might not be too clear, but it's just what I'm saying right now. Key result of this process is that what you have in network diagram, right? The network diagram we have here is showing us the start and the end of the project. And in between this, okay, in between this, we have activities or things that are happening, okay, things that will actually go on before we can say the project has come to an end. And these things are not just happening at the same time. They're broken down based on, priority and their order of precedence. Something must happen first before the next. So that is what you're seeing in the diagram here. At the start point, possibly you have activity one. Activity one could just be that you want to clear your site cleaning. Then activity 2 and 3 are happening simultaneously. There are things that can actually happen simultaneously in the project. Okay, there are things that can happen simultaneously. So you look at it and then you fit them in between. Then activity 4 and 5 also happening simultaneously. Then activity 6 is happening independently. It doesn't depend on any other thing. It happens after all the activities have been completed. So that is how the sequence activity works. If activity duration are added, network diagram shows critical path. All right, so bear in mind that the critical path of a project is the longest duration in the project. And it simply means that it's only the critical parts that can affect the duration of the project. Now, there are so many parts in the project. If you look at this, you're going to see the start button and the end button, which is the start of the project and the end of the project. And then you're going to see the arrows linking the movement of the execution process. It's showing you how this project is executed. Now, if you go through all this part, these are the project parts, execution parts. Okay, this happens before the. I believe we're going to see that later on in the project. But meanwhile, let's look at duration estimation. Now, after sequencing, sequencing means now you have ordered your activities in the project. This will happen before this. This will happen before this. This will happen before this. So it progresses in that order. Now, after that, you're going to ask yourself the question. You're going to say, you're going to, sit back to figure out how long it's going to take you, all right, to execute each of those activities in the work package. All right. For instance, if I want to do a site cleaning, how long is it going to take me? Is it going to take me 1 week? It's going to take me 3 days, 4 days, 1 hour, or whatever. Now, for each of those activities, you're going to specify. All right. You're going to indicate the duration based on certain principles. All right. So duration estimation involves estimating the time required to complete each activity. So accurate estimation is crucial for creating a realistic project schedule. Now, various techniques such as historical data analysis, expert judgment, and 3-point estimation can be used to determine activity duration. Now, like I said, duration is determined based on certain principles, and these are the principles, just stated here. Okay, we have, historical data analysis, for instance. You make reference. For instance, you want to do an analysis, a site clearing, and you want to know how long it's going to take you. Okay, you can go back to historical records, figure out previous excavations that were done in the past of this sort. How long did it take them? How many people were involved? How many days did they use to execute or to accomplish that? Then you look at it, maybe 3 days. Then you'll be right to assume that, okay, if it's taking them 3 days to do that, also, we want to assume that 3 days should be enough for us to do this. So it might not be that accurate, but at least you're having something because, there could be conditions that it kind of affect this particular excavation process. Okay, for instance, there could be effects of weather, the atmosphere, the nature of the soil, and all that. The breakdown of equipment could affect the process, and it could lead to an extension of time. But meanwhile, based on historical record, you can tell that, okay, within 3 days we should be able to kind of settle the issue of excavation of site or site clearing. Okay, and also we have expert judgment. Expert judgment means you consulting experts, subject matter experts, all right, on every element of the project. It could be excavation, it could be building, it could be finishing of the building, it could be the roofing, it could be on the road, asphalt laying, whatever you're doing. It could be on distribution, marketing, experts. Okay, you're going to consult them and tell them and ask them questions. There's going to be a closed door meeting, there's going to be a workshop that will be organized, and the essence of this is, you are a kind of establishing a brainstorming session where you want to get concrete and workable ideas that would help you to a kind of estimate the duration of the project. So you have to consult these guys. They've been in the field, they're experts in the field, they have experience, they can easily tell you that this drainage can be accomplished within 10 days. They can tell you that confidently because they have been in the field. So these are experts. You have to also, expert judgment is a technique that's also adopted. And also we have the 3-point estimation techniques where you have to look at a kind of 3 basic factors. All right. You have to look at the 3 basic factors that would help you determine, all right, determine that, okay, this is actually going to be the duration. Yes. So this can be used to determine activity duration in a project. Now, estimation methods. We have various estimation methods. The diagram before you here is telling you the level of accuracy, okay, in respect to the estimation methods you decide to adopt in your project. So there are so many methods, but you should be concerned about the level of accuracy of the information you're getting from the methods you want to use. All right, for instance, we have the arrow here just by the left-hand side here, quick and dirty. That means very quick. You can actually get the information you need very quick, but it might not be that accurate. Then if you go up the arrow, follow the arrow up, you're going to see the high accuracy and detail. All right. So those might not be quick. You need to take all the time to figure out how you can estimate your timing for your project. It will take you all the time, but it will be very accurate. So it's going from expert judgment. Expert judgment is very quick. Ask them question, how long is it going to take us to accomplish this road of 100 kilometers? They'll tell you it's going to take you 1.1 months and 15 days. Okay, it's very quick. They're telling you based on experience, but it might not be accurate, but at least they should be able to tell you the percentage accuracy, okay, to that estimation. Then you have 3-point estimation. All right, the 3 points, you have the most likely, you have different parameters you're looking at the 3-point estimation. It's not that accurate as well, but at least it can help you somehow. All right, if you want to make a very quick estimation. Now, in estimation, somebody might just ask you, how are you? Where are you right now? Yes. How much do you think it will cost us to, maybe on a phone call, how much do you think it will cost us to construct 100 meters road? Okay. Now, the person is not looking at the level of accuracy at this point. He just wants to have a kind of a tentative or a very raw estimation of what is asking you. Now, that is where expert judgment comes in, or 3-point estimation comes in. You can just tell him that, okay, now, I think that should take us about, all right? It should take us about, it should cost us about 1.5 million, for instance. Okay, good. So that is where we can apply expert judgment. But when it comes to, okay, now in detail, let's know what this is going to cost us. It would be wrong for you to just base on your estimation on expert judgment. You need to go for them. All right, be more detailed about your figures and your timing and your parameters. Then comparative estimation. The comparative estimate has to do with where you have similar projects that have been done before, similar in almost every aspect of it, and you can actually say, okay, if we're able to accomplish that within that period, we can also accomplish this in this project within this period. So that is comparative estimate. And also we have parametric estimate. This is close to accurate because in this case, you are taking every element of the project, okay, based on parameters, based on measurements, okay. You are kind of saying, okay, this, based on this measurement, this is what we're having, okay. This is based on metric measurement, all right, that's parametric. So that is very important. But then in the general sense of the project, you are measuring and you say, okay, this is going to cost us, this is going to cost us. It's close to accurate. but the most accurate methodology, estimation methodology here is the bottom-up estimate. Bottom-up estimate means you're taking the estimate from every single tiny element of the project. All right, then you're rolling it up. You're estimating from all the elements from the bottom, and you're taking it up. At the end, you are aggregating all the elements, and then you want to know the time it will cost you to accomplish the project. That is estimation. These are estimation method. Please take your time and go over this video again. All right, if you're writing your PMP, your CAPM, this is very important for you. You need to take your time, and also you need to do extra studies. And if you want a comprehensive lesson on this, please kindly drop a comment on this video and let me know. And I'm going to make up time for you and give you a drill before your PMP exams. Yes. So also resource planning, and at this level of the project planning, you know that now you have estimated your schedule. All right. Now you are very much aware that it's going to take you this long to accomplish this project because you are done with project schedule estimation. The next thing you're going to do is your resource plan. And I told you when we're talking about resources that we have three basic categories of resources. We have the human resource, and then we have the material resources. So whenever you hear the word resource, you have to look at it in that understanding, in that light, that we have the human resource and also we have the material resources. So when you are planning for your resources, you want to ask yourself, the manpower need for the project needs to be estimated, and also the material need, equipment need for the project needs to be estimated. So resource planning entails identifying and allocating the necessary resources, human, material, equipment, to each activity. So you ask yourself, in every element, I've broken down my activities in the work rate and structure, you've broken it down to the various elements. Now you're asking yourself, what is it going to take me to accomplish every element or segment of this project? Okay, so it ensures that the right resources are available at the right time, preventing resource conflicts and shortages during project execution. So you can see what we're doing here is thorough project planning, and we want to avoid anything that would affect the project, okay, and in the implementation process of the project. Then once you have settled that, you now have a good idea of the resources that you need for the project, or that you need, equipment need, material need, you can go ahead and develop your schedule. All right, you can, schedule development combines the information from previous knowledge areas to create a comprehensive project schedule. So this involves establishing starts and the end dates for activities, considering dependencies. We talked about the dependencies, activity dependencies, and then resource availability and project constraints. So you can design or you can develop a project schedule for use in your project. Now, for you to do that, we have different softwares we can use for our project schedule. We have the MS Project, we have the Jira softwares, we have a lot of software we can use today to plan for our project schedule. What we have here is a very good example of the Gantt chart. Okay, the Gantt chart here, you can see the various phases of the project clearly shown and outlined. All right, you can see the task name from the planning phase, the research name, the design, implementation, and all that. So now, and also we can see the dates across the line overhead, the chart. You can see, the first quarter in 2019, second quarter 2019, third quarter 2019. All right, that's what we can see there. And the first quarter in 2019 started from, that's the commencement period of the project, January 19th. The blue line you're seeing is the period, that activity is the running time of that activity, the active time of that particular activity. For instance, looking at the Gantt chart here, you can see that the blue line there is, the first one we can see under planning. Under planning, look at the blue line under planning, you're going to see blue, starting somewhere around 19th of January, ending somewhere around 19th of March. Then research. The research now, there is a kind of a simultaneous a kind of operation between the planning and the research. Now the planning started from the January 19th to March 19th, but the research also started in February 19th to March, somewhere around March 19th also. Okay, so meaning that we can have two elements happening at the same time. All right, so you have to figure out to save time. All right, we don't have to wait for the planning to finish before. So in your project planning, there are elements that can actually happen at the same time. You can go ahead and do that. And also you notice something that the design also began before the planning ended. Design also began before the research ended. So the design began earlier enough in the month of March. Okay, so the planning they've gone very far with the plan, and they got to a point in the planning where they felt we can now start off with the design. And that's what is happening here. They started off with the design, and then the research was still going on. The design of the project was still going. It still, started off. Then now the design ended in the month of April 19th. And then before the end of the design, they got enough design that would require them to start up with the implementation of the project. So you can see that the design did not end before the implementation of the project. So you see that there's a level you get to in your project design that will require you to start up immediately with project implementation, at least the preliminaries. Okay, so you can start up. Well, the essence of that is just for you to save time. You want to save time in your project. Now, okay, you want to save time. So it continues out. That is just how the Gantt chart works. All right, and there's a very good example of the project schedule. All right, so the next thing there is the critical path analysis. Critical path analysis identifies the critical paths in the project network. Now, the critical paths represent the longest sequence of dependent activities that determine the project's overall duration. Now, any delay on the critical path will delay the entire project. Okay, so you have various paths in your project. You're going to see the diagram here, the critical path. In this diagram, you have the start and the finish line, okay, of your diagram. All right, the schedule diagram. Now, you have each of this. The boxes you're seeing are what we call activities. We have activity A, activity B, activity C, activity D, E, F, G, H happening at various points. All right, so, and also you can see that activity A, B, and F are happening simultaneously. Activities C, D, and E are also happening simultaneously. Then activities H and G are also happening simultaneously. So also you can actually, looking at this diagram here, the schedule diagram, you can see that activity C cannot begin until activity A is completed. Okay, so we can say that activity C depends on activity A before it can commence. All right, that's what we call dependency in project scheduling. All right, good. So the numbers you're seeing there, for instance, look at activity A, you're going to see, on top of it, you're having 0, 0, right? Then activity A is starting with 2, just down below 2. Then in between, you're going to see 6. Then down, you're going to see 2. Now, the 6 you're seeing there is the duration. All right? Now, the 0 at the beginning of activity A is the start period. Then the 2 also at the beginning of activity A is also the start period. Okay? Now, if you go over it, you're going to see the ending period. Now, for activity A, the 2 there is the late start. Then the 0 up there is the early start, ES. Late start is the LS. Then the early finish is 6. The late finish is 6. I'm just going to use that box to explain it, because the same thing happens across all the activities. Pay attention to activity A, please. What it's trying to tell you in activity A is that the early start of activity A, if activity A should start early enough, it should be on the first day. Okay, so that is day 0, the first day. And it should take activity A like 6 days in between. All right, 6 days in between. Okay, so 0 plus 6 is going to give you 6. All right, good. That is for the forward start. Okay, for the forward start, because everything you see above it is the forward start. The other one is the backward start. So that's why you're seeing it the other way. Okay, so for the forward start, activity A must start 0, and then it will take activity A 6 days, which is 6 there in between on green before completion. Then once that is done, activity C can start on the 6th day, because activity A starts on the 6th day. You can see the arrow pointing from activity A to activity C. So activity C can start on the 6th day. If you take activity C, they will ask you how many days will it take, should it take activity C to complete? All right, it should take activity C 3 days, because you can see the 3 on the green, 3 days to complete. And then 3 plus 6 is going to give you 9. With the duration from 0 to that point is going to be 9. Then C goes to activity H, where you have it that activity H starts on the 9th day after the completion of activity C. All right, so if you take activity H 2 days to complete, so 2 plus 9 is going to give you 11, which is the final point of it. So the same thing applies to other activities. Activity B, D, F, E, and G. Then you have the final point of it. Now, these activities define various parts of execution. All right, it goes from start point to activity A to activity C to activity H to the finish point. That also you have from activity start point to activity B to activity D to activity H to the finish point. Then start point to activity B to activity, E to activity G to the finish point. Then you have the longest part, which goes from the start point to activity F to activity F to activity G, then to the finish point. Now, the critical parts, if you go through this critically, you see that the highest duration assigned to this project is at that critical part. You can see it on a red line, and that is the longest time. That is what defines the project's duration. Now, we call it the critical part. The reason why we call it the critical part is because if you decide to add a day to the project, it's going to affect the critical part.